Hello everyone, welcome.
Thank you.
My name is Zhao. I work at a company called Apartment List. We are a website, iPhone, and Android app that help people find and rent apartments. Just curious folks, how many of you in here rent versus buy? You can raise your hand. Cool, that's great. We would love to be at your service. We understand there are competing services out there. How do we differentiate ourselves beyond basic info like number of bedrooms and bathrooms? Apartment images are a key part of that. What I'm going to walk through today are some of the decisions we made to make our images lean and mean. Lean and mean is an interesting phrase, especially if English is not your first language. How are you supposed to interpret it? You have the word lean, which has many positive connotations. Thin, fit, thrifty, economical, no excess, no waste. Like this guy here. But what does lean have to do with mean? It's hard to imagine these two together. Mean has all sorts of negative connotations. Unkind, cruel, malicious, hard to cope with. I don't really understand why people put lean and mean together. Oh, question.
Mean is also a mathematical term.
Oh, that's true. It's the average. But we don't want to be average. We want to be the average.
You were talking about the definition.
That's true.
I want to add that.
I appreciate
And
that.
that takes a negative out there.
That's true.
There it is.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
So for the presentation, for the purpose of this presentation, I'll think of making images mean as pumping up their impact by making them more in focus and more colorful. With that settled, here's your prefix menu for lunch today. A 5-course meal on getting your images leaner and smaller in file size. And a 2-course dessert on getting your images more in focus and more colorful. Are you good so far? Cool, great. Before we start, why do I care to talk to you about images? It's because they are often not talked about. As engineers and engineering managers, your job is usually about code. Code is close to the heart, and images are often not. At Harmless, we didn't pay attention to images for a long time, and the cost added up. Our optimized images made up the majority of our page load time, and our website slowed down to a crawl compared to our competitors, which affected our ability to acquire and return our users. We realized that our team scrambled to optimize our images. We made our images not only smaller, but also better looking. So today I'll share everything our team has learned. To evaluate each of the 7 image transformations, we're going to look at some demo images. They're all 640 pixels wide and 480 pixels tall. There are 4 of them: a bedroom, kitchen, living room, roof deck, and a 5th mystery image to be revealed halfway through the presentation. Outside the expectation now, it's not a beautiful image, but it's interesting. Let's jump in. JPEG compression. Everyone has experienced JPEG compression. A good example is when you're streaming Game of Thrones on your borrowed HBO Go account. The video player automatically detects your internet speed. If your internet can download large files quickly, you will not compress much, and everything will look high quality. And if your internet cannot download large files quickly, it will compress more, and everything will look lower quality. So to trade off, larger files correspond to better picture. Here you can see the same bedroom image compressed at 3 different settings. There is the good, the bad, and the ugly. With an image compressed heavily, you start to see artifacts, like distortion around the plants, fuzziness around the pillows, and blockiness along the ceilings and walls. Compared to the original JPEG, the good compressed version shaved down 15% in file size, the bad one 30, and the ugly one 8. Because as we saw, image quality takes a toll so quickly, the good one is really the only sensible option. Comparing the good image to the original, when viewed in their entireties, there is no visible difference. When viewed close up, you have to really squint your eyes since some of you are so far away. There are observable artifacts, distortion, fuzziness, especially around the edges of the leaves. Can you see that? So is compression worth it? On one hand, 15% of savings is not that significant. On the other hand, it comes at the cost of artifacts. Honestly, I'm not sure it is. We can do better. Let's talk about Chroma subsampling, which is a clever trick that can be used in conjunction with compression. Images can be encoded in different ways. One common way we hear about is red, green, and blue. Each pixel can be expressed in red, green, and blue values. Another way that's good for compression is Chroma plus Luma. Luma describes the brightness of each pixel in black and white, while Chroma describes the color. The clever trick was born when someone realized that our eyes can detect minor variation in brightness, Luma, very well, but they cannot resolve the finer details in color, Chroma, that much. Still, if we discard some color information to shed weight, our brain can tell the difference. That's what a subsampling means, the discarding of information. The codename 400 in subsampling means for every 8 pixels, keep all 8, which is to say 100%. And the codename 420 in subsampling means for every 8 pixels, keep only 2, which is only 25%. Because our eyes and brain are terrible at detecting color variations, we can get away with this. Recall that Chroma subsampling is used in conjunction with compression. Comparing a Chroma subsampled image to a good compressed image, there is still no visible difference when viewed from afar. When viewed close up, the subsampled image actually almost looks better. There's less noise. Not only that, Chroma subsampling bumps the 16% average savings we have from compression to a whopping 34%, more than doubling. 34% of savings is great, but we're not done yet. Let me tell you about the WebP file format, which was introduced 7 years ago by Google. Presumably, it's short for web picture. It's the next evolution in image file formats. JPEG is actually already 24 years old, which is ancient in computer years. WebP is the modern replacement for JPEG. For any JPEG image out there, WebP can make it smaller while retaining the same image quality. What's the magic behind WebP? Based on their marketing page, I think that's what it does. It divides images into smaller rectangles. The more complex the area, the smaller the rectangle, and the simpler the area, the bigger the rectangle. In this example, the rectangle is 9 pixels wide and 5 pixels tall. WebP takes only the first row and first column and throws away the rest. Then it tries to reconstruct the discarded area with a wide range of prediction models, horizontal, vertical, at an angle, all sorts. The model that matches the original the best wins. And then WebP keeps the codename for the winning model in place of the bulk of discarded pixels, which is a large amount of savings. With WebP, our 34% of average savings from Chroma subsampling and compression can be as high as 49%. our images can now be half the size. The great thing about WebP is that it makes images smaller while retaining the same quality. The not so great thing is that it currently only works in Chrome. Looking at harmless traffic, Chrome accounts for 46% of all our users. One way to look at it is glass half empty. It's only 46%, let's not bother. The other way to look at it is glass half full. WebP makes our images load faster for half of our users. What's happening here? On the left, with a normal image, it's loaded at 1 pixel at a time. Left to right, top to bottom. Very methodical, very seemingly slow. On the right is a progressively encoded image, which is loaded in multiple passes. You just saw the first pass. In the first pass, large blocks of pixels are loaded, forming an impression of the image. At this point, the normal image is only 10% loaded. In the second pass, smaller blocks of pixels are loaded. Now you can start to tell what's in the image. And at this point, the normal image is only 25% loaded. We just finished the third pass. Even smaller blocks of pixels were loaded. The image almost looks fully complete, and the normal image is only at 50%. There is, of course, still intricate details to be loaded in the progressively encoded version, but you can barely tell. The best part about progressive encoding is that it doesn't actually affect the file size. Sometimes it does a little bit, but it's so small it's negligible. And the normal image is still loading. It's not a waste. I have a lunch to get to. At this point, you have already learned the best tricks to make your images linear. The last one doesn't make a huge difference, but it's such a low-hanging fruit, we might as well talk about it. The idea is simple. An analogy would be if you were to buy a bike helmet and then proceed to wear it and ride your bike, you're probably not going to carry around the instruction manual and the warranty information with you everywhere you go. Images often carry around such information, such as where was it taken, when, what was the ISO setting, shutter speed, aperture, things you would care about as a photographer, but otherwise non-essential to the rendering of the image. We can strip them, and this often saves a few percentages. Well, that was everything I have to say about making images smaller. Now let's talk about making them better. The idea is like applying Instagram filters to your photos. These are the two transformations I like. Sharpening. This is the original image. This is sharpening taken to the maximum. It doesn't look terrible, but I agree it doesn't look natural. So let's tone it down a little bit. This is the setting I like. It was determined by trial and error. It's an art, not a science. The image looks just a tad bit crisper. Zooming in for a closer comparison. Can you see the difference? A little bit? Mm-hmm. Sharpening does come at a hefty price. The file sizes are on average 27% bigger. I personally think that the return on investment for having a sharper image is worthwhile, but reasonable people can disagree. The next transformation doesn't have this hefty cost attached. Saturating. Saturating doesn't affect the image file size much, but it does have a different problem. It's really easy to overdo. Here's the original. Here's a liberal amount of saturation applied, but nowhere near the maximum. I like to apply just a tad bit, enough that the image looks slightly warmer. Alright, you made it through. Now you know all the tricks to make your images lean and mean. To apply these transformations to your images, you can use free command line tools like image matching. You could also use an image hosting service like Cloudinary. Cloudinary has each of these transformations available out of the box, and the ability to apply them simply by changing the URL. It's very cool. Take this Cloudinary URL for example. The gray parts specifies the images I'm interested in transforming, and the red parts apply each of the transformations we talked about today. You can remove any transformation and see what difference it makes to your file size and image quality. You can also change the sharpening and saturating numbers to match your taste. In closing, I'll be the first to tell you that all the transformations we discussed today can be done via open source tools. But the reality is, when you have a large data set of images, operationally, it demands too much engineering resource. That's why at Apartmentlist, we decided to outsource this part of our stack, so that we can focus on our core competency, which is to help people find and rent apartments. Thank you. So what do you all think? What questions do you have? Yes, sir?
What was the file size difference on the saturated image?
Negligible.
Okay.
Yeah, saturation doesn't make a difference in file size. It's only sharpening.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
You guys have a JavaScript packager tool that'll do the interpolation of URLs for me? Because I wrote my own, but...
Yeah. So we do use the source set tag, source set attribute on the image tag in HTML, which allows you to specify different size images for mobile versus tablet versus desktop. So we did have to write our own little helper to determine that. The main reason for that is, depending on the layout, like on mobile you might be full width, on desktop you might only be a third or a quarter. So you have to have a little bit of custom logic there, depending on the use case. Yeah. Yes?
So how do you determine how many of the transformation that you use, or do you use them all?
Yeah, so we actually use all 7 of the transformations. So we broke them into the 2 sets, the lean set, which makes the image smaller, and the mean set, which makes the images also look better. For apartment images, we use both. So they're smaller and better looking. For other assets like our logo, we use just the mean set, so that we don't get the designers upset at us. Yes?
So I assume that there's some processing overhead on the server for this.
Yeah.
What kind of caching is involved? If it does one the first time, does it somehow cache it so the next time it doesn't have to go through that processing, or does it process it every single time?
Yeah, that's correct. So the way Cloudinary works is they do all the transformation on the first try by default, and then as soon as it's being transformed, it's cached behind the CDN for you automatically.
Okay.
They also support an option called eager loading, which we sometimes, if we know that the image is always going to be this one size and it's going to be loaded a lot, then as soon as we upload the image, we can toggle that eager transformation setting, and it will transform for us without even a user hitting it. Yes?
Can you tell me more about how the use of the pictures and storage is a benefit to your ultimate goal? How does that help you when you're showing clients the different properties and things that you say that is your mission statement?
Yeah.
Yeah, so how do these integrate?
So the question is, how do images help us meet our ultimate goal as a company, which is to help people find apartments?
Mm-hmm.
I would say 2 things. So on the side of making image smaller, when you have smaller images, Google actually figures that out, and other search engines. And when you have a faster website, and Google will actually use that as one of the factors to determine where you rank when people search for relevant keywords. So earlier I showed this slide where we were miles behind our competitors. When that happened, we actually only started looking into that because we were seeing why are we getting less organic traffic from organic search results. And we had a bunch of hypotheses and ultimately landed on site performance and then did our optimization project. The other part of that is we have actually gotten complaints, well not complaints, comments from our property management partners who would say, hey, I don't like how our images look on your website. But then we're like, you give us those images. You don't like how they look. So that's when we decided, okay, we'll turn up the sharpening, we'll turn up the saturation. Now our images look better on our website than your website, and they're your images.
Nice.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Wow, I got way more than I brought for that answer.
That's
Good
great. Yes. Yes.
Do you use the exact same image for both like desktop and mobile, or do you sort of separate them into?
We used to use the same image for desktop and mobile, counting on the fact that on desktop it will be rendered bigger. On mobile it will be smaller, but it would be like Retina screen, 2x resolution. So they come out roughly the same size.
Okay.
We learned about source set recently, and we've been using source set to let the browser automatically calculate what's the right size image to render for us. And then we offload it to Cloudinary to do the resizing for us. Yes?
Is there, I noticed you have a fair amount of query parameters.
Yeah.
Is there an ability to have everything resized to the same size via query parameters?
Yeah, there is. So Cloudinary has a feature called named transformations. You can put the majority of these transformations in behind a named alias, so that it's just a single thing. Looking at this list, there is one flag that cannot be put behind a name transformation for a technical reason. And I can explain that to you afterwards if you're interested.
No, but I assume on your site for attractiveness, for the way it looks, you probably want images to be the same size in some of the search
Oh,
results and
size-wise
stuff,
for the image.
right? You want to display like a thumbnail the same
Right.
size.
Right.
Can that be easily done via query parameters?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So here you can see, for example, Q is for quality. For size, use W for width and H for height. It's capital U, U, B, C, and lowercase b. All right, thanks. That's good.